My family name was obviously Hull, went under the name of E-Hull Limited. We were a haulage company as such from the turn of the last century, when my grandfather started the business with horses and carts, doing W.H. Allen's work, who had only just moved into the town. Well, even in those days, the carts, as they were called, came in different shapes and sizes. Some even tipped up. Some were longer in length. Yeah. And again, we transported mainly in those days because a lot of, or Allen's themselves had quite a large foundry where they actually made their own moulds to produce the machine parts. And we transported from the railway trucks into Allen's all the sand to make the moulds. We did also move their end product, which in those days seemed to fit in on horses and carts, i.e. they wasn't that heavy. Yeah. And a typical day's work, I think, I was told that we would take a machine part from Allen's, say, to Wellingborough, which is all of, I think, 16 miles, and that would take a horse and cart from 5 a.m. till about 8 p.m. To complete the job. So, you know, it was quite a long day. I don't know why, but a lot of the sand came into Oakley Station, not Bedford Station. So we used to have to trundle out to Oakley on a horse and cart, load it by hand, and then trundle it back to Allen's and offload it by hand. And the early recollection was I would follow the horse and cart, which had got the sort of professional driver. I would be the one behind who would follow up and do that. So that was my early recollection. I mean, we had 2 lorries for years and years and years every Monday morning set off for Scotland. And in those days, believe it or not, there was 40 shipping companies on the Clyde alone. So when you're delivering to every one of those, we needed 2 vehicles. It was mainly ships and then submarines that we did for W.H. Allen's all around the country, all up the east coast, Teesside, Tyneside, and then into Scotland on the Clyde and beyond. I mean, they even got involved, and we had to take large diesel generators right to the north of Scotland to the nuclear power station Dounreay, which in those days, when that was first built, they hadn't seen low loaders that size going on the Scottish roads. You know, it was quite an achievement. I mean, W.H. Allen's announced to us that they were developing a V engine, a V8 engine, and it would weigh about 100 tonnes. We immediately said, well, you know, how are you going to get it out of the works? You know, where you make them, it will be impossible to move. And they immediately turned around and said, that's your problem. And they couldn't knock anywhere down because they just hadn't got the space to redevelop it anywhere else. So we then went to Germany as a quite a young company, really, in the early 60s. And we found a company that was developing a steerable trailer. And we were one of the first, I mean, even before Pickfords, and I mean, you've probably heard of Pickfords, that they were massive in transport. And we probably introduced the first steerable trailer into England. And that is in that photograph, which was 1965. And that enabled us to go into Allen's and steer around these nasty corners. And when we used to go up the road with it, I mean, we used to have hundreds of phone calls from the general public who were driving behind, telling us we'd got a trailer going up the A1 with all the wheels going in different directions, because it was a steerable trailer, and it was quite unique. So yeah, we progressed with Allen's, and we went abroad. I mean, we didn't particularly want to go abroad, but again, they told us that every crate that they made or didn't make was going to save them X amount of pounds, and so we had to go abroad, and we became quite well known as European transporters. Yeah, we built a company around Allen's without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, that was bread and butter. I mean, anything we did, and we did a lot of other things. I mean, we couldn't rely on Allen's, but really for many, many years, that was our bread and butter. And anything we did other than that was the perks. But without Allen's, I don't think there'd have been an E-Hull Limited. It's as simple as that.